Hello and welcome to the Sound Lab podcast interviews unedited. On today's show, we have interviews from Jay Buchanan of Rival Sons, James Johnston. We also have Police, Dog Hogan and Help. Plus, we throw back in time to 2020 to chat to Leann Rimes. So without further ado, let's kick off with our first interview of the show and chat to Jay Buchanan, lead singer of Rival Sons, who has gone solo with a new record. So, Jay Buchanan, how are you?
I'm very good, Jim. Thank you.
Good. That's great to hear. So we've been playing a single of yours called True Black. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
Oh, True Black. It's like a gospel. It's a gospel upbeat sort of a song that is somewhat confessional, and I think it's. I wrote it in an attempt to acknowledge how hard it may be to be a good friend to me sometimes. I think that any well-lived life is full of mistakes and, even well-intentioned mishaps. But I think that it was really, I wanted to write a song that acknowledges that I'm sure it hasn't always been easy to love me.
No, fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. And that's off your debut solo record, Weapons of Beauty, which is out now. For those who've not had a chance to take a listen, tell us a bit about the record itself.
Oh, well, I went, let's see, my solo record just came out this last year, January through April. I went out into the Mojave Desert to finish writing the record. I had a couple of songs, but I enforced some seclusion so that I could just focus on writing. And I did that for about 3 months. And the result is this album, Weapons of Beauty. And it's a foray, I suppose, into Americana. That's really, the entire album is really centered around storytelling. And I didn't set out to make an Americana record per se, but I really think that it fell in that way because I'm so influenced by so much country music and, what could be called, I suppose, like red dirt music out here in the United States that, it was just kind of a natural osmosis for me.
Good. Yeah, nice. And the sound that you've made with this record, is it the sound you wanted, or was it kind of how it turned out as you were writing and recording it?
That's an interesting question. And I suppose the answer is it the sound I wanted. I think that the only thing I was looking for, Jim, was vulnerability. Was to tell. The only thing I was really looking for was storytelling from a place that was going to be deep enough for me to truly resonate with. I think that was the only. That was the only thing that I could really shoot for. I don't think that I have the patience to mastermind, a concept record or anything like that. I think that I tend to write more instinctively. So just knowing that, like, I wanted to write music that was predicated on vulnerability, for the most part. So the actual sound, I'm very pleased with it because I got some amazing musicians to play on it that I've known for many years. These are all friends. Everybody that played on that record is someone who's very dear to me. And because all of these players are so good, they made it sound fantastic. I was in charge of the songwriting for the most part. But it's the players really made it come together. And my buddy, Dave Cobb, who produced the record down in Savannah, Georgia.
Good. Yeah, no, that's good to hear. And I'm sure you wrote more than what made it onto the record. What happens to those now? Is it a case of trying them again a bit further down the line, or maybe with Rival Sons as well? Or is it a case of starting afresh when the time comes?
I'm not one to hold on to discarded music, really. I just don't. For me, songwriting for the most part is it's a snapshot of where you are mentally emotionally, and wherever your acumen and ability are for the art. So when something gets discarded, it's typically because it was a runt in the litter. And I don't think I've ever experienced time making that runt larger or stronger. So if something is in the rear view mirror, I tend to keep it there and write music for the time, for the demands of whatever the current project is.
Nice. Yeah, fair enough. And what was it like writing for you and for yourself as opposed to that of Rival Sons in a band kind of format?
Well, I think the place that you try to write from is generally the same, but the exposure and the vulnerability can be different. When I'm writing for myself, I don't have anyone to compromise with. Whereas when I'm writing with and for Rival Sons, the entire thing is a compromise. The all of it is a negotiation. Whereas Rival Sons, the solo music is all about space. It's all about dancing with that empty space. And if someone listens to the record, they'll hear that. The music tends to be very slow and unhurried. This is definitely the sound of me taking my time. Whereas with Rival Sons is a rock band, and when we get together, there's a lot of energy there. There's a lot of power. There's a lot of energy, and from the stage we push a lot of air, and so so much of what we do as a band in Rival Sons is predicated on this frenetic energy, and it's like wielding a really big hammer together. Whereas with my solo material, I really wanted that power to come from the oh goodness, I really wanted the power to come from the lyrics and from the sparse arrangement, and to give room to frame the vocals, and it's a very reductive record, I think, comparatively.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I like to talk about the writing process as well. So for you, how do tracks normally start off?
I think when songs begin, it happens any manner of ways. At its best, you just sit there and it hits you like a lightning bolt, and then you're just like you're channeling a really great idea. Like I said, that's at its best, and then those songs, they happen to come very quickly, and then next thing you know, the song's finished, and it's, wow, what just happened? And then other songs you really have to labor and you have to work with because they take a while to reveal their form to you. And you're just getting these various like keyhole glimpses of what the song is. It's like hearing a fragment in a dream, and then you have another dream, you hear another fragment or something like that. I know that sounds very esoteric, but it's like a story being revealed to you in small parts, and you have to keep digging, to unearth a little bit more of it, maybe like an archaeological dig or something like that. But other songs you have to work that way, and then some songs it's begin with a feeling, where the feeling comes to you first, and then you have to sit and you have to wait for the lyrics to really come, and you have to start playing with words and melodies and different things. But it happens in any number of ways. I wish there were some specific rain dance I could do to get a bona fide result, to always get the good stuff. But man, it just doesn't work that way.
No, I can imagine. And the world of lyrics and the world of music are two very different worlds. How do you find kind of merging those two worlds together?
Lyrics and music?
Mm.
Well, for me, they aren't different worlds.
Okay.
You know, I've devoted my life to songwriting and trying to understand this craft. And even after all of these years, I'm still very daft. I still understand so little, you know. When I know, I know. And when like the spirit is there, great. Um, but then at other times, I'm just, I don't know what I'm doing, you know. When the when I'm not truly inspired, it's just moon spoon June. I'll see you soon. But I really can't. I'll separate lyrics and melody maybe once a song is done. But as I'm writing, the melody and the lyrics inform each other. And so often the melody will inform the lyrics greatly as a matter of movement, because melody can put great impact when it is married to a set of words. It's really something when it comes together. When it comes together and it's done right, but you can have major lifts and minor falls and different things that are attached to these different lyrics, and they'll give them a different gravity. But I think that lyrics are, well, for the most part, lyrics are paramount to me. I say that, but at the same time, I can put on Black Dog from Led Zeppelin, and that song's just gobbledygook. But it's still the entire song transports me. It does its job to transport me and to put me somewhere, you know. And just, some of my favorite songs are just they're comprised lyrically of just these non sequiturs that don't on their
Makes
own
sense. Yeah.
that on their own they don't really have any. There's no nutrient in there, but when they are in the context of the song that they're in, they mean everything. So it's really curious how that can happen.
No, for sure. And you've been busy over the last month or so because you've been out on the road and doing some shows. How were they?
Shows were great, man. Um, let's see. I touched off. I went to Nashville, Tennessee, and then over to New York, and then over to London, and then over to Paris. And I played some solo shows in each one of these towns and did a lot of radio, a lot of interviews, just like this. And, the things that you do surrounding a record release. I can't really tour right now. We've got some illness here at home. And so I want to be home, for these months as we go through this and the family goes through this. So then I'll be touring this solo record more from this summer, late summer, and then further on, as well as with Rival Sons. We're getting ready to get into the studio and make another record, and then we need to tour and we do all of that stuff. So I'll be very busy very soon. But for now, I want to be home.
Yeah, no, all the best to whoever is unwell in your family. And the best goes out to them. I'm sure anyone listening will pass their best on as well.
I
And
appreciate that. Thank you.
you touched on Rival Sons, and it has been a few years since the last record, coming up to 3, I believe now. You coming back into the studio, have you put any thoughts towards the direction the next record's going in?
Yes, I have, and some music has been written, songs have been written. But I think that once we get in there, seeing the type of energy that the music takes on and the songs take on, I think that getting everyone together in the same room and kind of hashing it out, I think is going to be, that's really going to dictate, because the songs are one thing, but also the energy of the band and that, when we become something that's greater than the sum of its parts when we're together, again, at its best. I think that letting that spirit and letting that energy be and do what it needs to do. Is I think that's very important. So we'll see that when we get into the studio. And we'll do some writing in the studio as well. But I don't know. In some ways, with the last two records that we put out, Dark Fighter and Lightbringer, creatively they were a real stretch, and I'm very proud of those records, because we made some music that doesn't sound remotely like anybody else, But I think at the same time, I think maybe we might be looking at a little bit of a return to form, like bring it back to like a small club sound, a sweaty small stage, sort of a high energy sound, So I know I'm definitely going to be looking to do that on at least a number of songs, but we'll see about the entire collection. That remains to be seen.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Jay Buchanan of Rival Sons to talk about his new solo record and more. Now, we are all over social media, so come and find us at The Sound Lab, yes, on all the socials. And you can also check out the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk. So while you go and find us on all the socials and give us some follows, of course, we've got our next interview from James Johnston. He's been busy releasing some new music and been touring too. We had a chat with him all about it. So James Johnston, how are you?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure is all mine. And we've been playing a single of yours called One More. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
Yeah, One More is a celebration of all the things I love about country music. Really, it's one more song, one more beer, one more chance to sing it all night long. And I wrote that, going into a big festival back in Australia called Strumming Bird, and I walked into the room. I was writing with a buddy of mine, Morgan Evans, in Nashville, and I said, I just need one more song before I leave Nashville. And he said, well, I think that sounds like a song, and let's write that. So that's where it comes from.
Nice. Yeah, nice. And that's off your new record, Where You'll Find Me, which is out now. For those who've not had chance to hear the record yet, tell us a bit about that as well.
Yeah, Where You'll Find Me and my music in general is a celebration to a way of life. I grew up small little town boy. Grew up out on a farm, and it celebrates a lot of those stories, those values, and kind of it's a place for people to go to and listen and be proud of wherever they call home, or come into our little world and celebrate that.
Yeah, nice. And the sound that you made with the record, was it the sound you wanted, or was it kind of how it turned out as you were writing and recording it?
Yeah, so I worked really closely with my producer, and we pretty much co-produced the whole record. So absolutely, it was what was in my head, and we just started chipping away, and it was a great process doing it that way. I've recorded stuff in Nashville where I've written a song and sent it off and that sort of thing. But to actually be hands-on with every single step of the process and to be playing a lot of the instruments on the record and everything, made it feel very, very connected to what I wanted to sound like.
Nice. And I'm sure you wrote more probably than what made it onto the record. What happens to those now? Is it a case of trying them again down the line, or will it be a case of starting afresh when the time comes?
I think songs find their time. Yeah, absolutely. I wrote way more songs than what's on the record, and some of them just didn't fit that record. But, some will never see the light of day, and that's okay. But I think other songs, maybe 10 years down the track when I'm in a different stage of life where I feel like, oh, that song now suits the story that I'm trying to tell, that they'll come back out. And that's certainly happened before.
Nice. And I'd like to talk about the writing process as well. So for you, how do tracks normally start off?
Honestly, it changes from song to song. The core thing with writing, and in the Nashville way of writing, is to sit around with an acoustic guitar and you start writing. But I often like to kind of create a rhythm. Like there's a beat or a little lick or something that I kind of just put on loop, and then I just start singing, and then just see what kind of sticks. I like the idea of, what does this make me feel? What do I want to say through this? And then just start singing a bunch of melodies. And often it's nonsense for the first hour of me just singing absolutely garbage. And then I'll say something. I'm like, oh, what's that? Let's dig in on that.
Yeah, is it quite straightforward to kind of create the lyrics to the music that you've already put down?
I would like to say yes, but there is sometimes it comes in 30 minutes, sometimes it comes in a month, and it consumes me. So it's depending on the song. Some days it's easy, some days it's not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you are heading back over here to the UK in August, I believe. I bet you can't wait to be doing some shows.
Certainly am. I'm coming over for a festival called Country Calling Festival in Essex, which I'm very excited about. It'll be my first time in the UK, first time playing in the UK, and I'm going to be announcing a few side shows in the coming weeks. So make sure if you want to catch the show, it's jamesjohnston.com, and we'll be putting all the tour dates up there. So come and check it out.
Nice. And as we get listeners all around the world, what else are you planning for doing shows this year?
So back home in Australia, so I fly back. There's a big festival happening in March called CMC Rocks, which is one of the kind of our biggest festivals back home. I'm heading to Sweden in May, which is very exciting for a festival over there, and adding a bunch of dates at the moment for tour stops and festivals all around the world. That was my big goal for this year, is that I wanted to take my music all around the world, and this is the first step.
Yeah, nice. Is this year then majority going to be touring and shows, or do you think you might get back into the studio and do some writing again at some point?
Yeah, I'm literally back in the studio. I land on Monday, and I'm back in the studio for 2 weeks, starting Tuesday. So, I'm right back into it. There's going to be lots of new music coming out, and it's been good. I just flew in from Nashville only a couple of days ago, and there's a bunch of new songs that I'm excited about. So I'm looking forward to get back in the studio and keep the music coming.
Nice. Have you put much thought towards how record 3 is going to sound?
No, I'm in that stage at the moment where I'm just in the process of seeing what comes out, seeing what I write, seeing what I feel. And I feel like through that process, the more that I write, the more that the whole record and the new direction starts to shape itself.
Yeah, nice. Is there anything that you've not tried that you want to see if works for you and your music and your style?
Ooh, yes. I really want to put a gospel choir in one of my songs. That's something I've always wanted to do. I've never done it in one of my songs. And country meets gospel. That's something that I really want to do.
Sounds like fun. Yeah, that sounds like fun. And one other question that I enjoy asking artists is when it comes to specifically show days, talk us through your day from getting up until after the shows have taken place.
Well, I would like to say that the dream day is, my family will be on the road with me, and we'll go out and have a bit of an adventure for the day, and then get ready for the show. But depending on the show, sometimes it's chaos. Sometimes I'm running around trying to. I like to change my show way too often. I've always got a new idea, and at the end of the day, sometimes I'm the one, redesigning the visuals or something like that. Be like, I just want to try this thing, and I'll be sitting there on my laptop redesigning it and sending it to my team and all the rest of it. So I would like to say that it's all nice and calm, but the honest truth to that is that often I'm making last minute changes that I probably shouldn't be making because I just want to see what it looks like.
And what about that kind of immediate moment leading up to the show? Do you have a specific warm-up routine, or is there anything that you need to make sure that you do or even don't do before the show kind of starts?
Yeah, we had this there's two things. I always obviously warm your vocals up to all that sort of stuff, but there's one thing that I do with the band is we do 50 push-ups before we walk on stage, and it's like and it's one of those things that kind of keeps us in check, that when we're starting to drink a few too many beers, 50 push-ups becomes very difficult after a few days on the road. So it's a good metric for us to be like, all right, we need to get back in shape and stay healthy. So that's but before we walk on stage, it's always 50 push-ups.
Nice. And once you kind of come off stage after your show is over, normally it's probably quite late for artists. How do you kind of calm down before you end up sleeping?
I think that's tricky sometimes. My show's very high energy, so I'm normally absolutely gassed when I walk off stage. I'm normally exhausted. I always say I'm not going to leave anything on that stage, and I normally I don't. I'm running from one side to the next. It's just big energy. So normally by the end of the show, I just want to kind of sit in a bit of quiet, in a peace. I'm not a big partier after my shows, to be honest. Normally because I've just given everything and I'm just absolutely wrecked. So after half an hour, I'm like crashed. There's more than not, in the car on the drive home. I'll be the passenger and I'll be fast asleep half an hour down the road. The adrenaline's up, and then it's just like then I'm gone.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with James Johnston to talk about new music and more. Now, if you're listening to us on Spotify, then you'll be pleased to hear we also have a fresh playlist. It brings you 150 brand new up-and-coming artists that we feel like you might just enjoy yourselves. If you want to check that out, search Fresh by The Sound Lab on Spotify or head to the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk, and click on the Fresh Playlist button. So while you go and check out our fresh playlist to save and listen to later on, of course, we've got our next interview from Police Dog Hogan. They've got a new record out this week and we had a chat with them all about it. So Police Dog Hogan, how are you?
Very well, Jim. Good to be with you.
Good, yeah, pleasure's all mine. Now, we've been playing a single of yours called Go Down Fighting. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
Well, it's a sort of raging against the elements kind of song. You know, it's like retaining dignity in the face of everything being against you and refusing to buckle, not go down. You know, to go down with dignity, should we say? Go down fighting. And weirdly, you know, it was a general idea, but as we'd finished it, the fiddle player, who's a keen cricket fan, pointed out that it is in fact a more or less perfect soundtrack to the now discredited, I think, Bazball. I don't know if you're a cricket fan, Jim, but
I've heard of
it. But it seemed to sort of describe perfectly the ethos of the England cricket team, and that's before they actually did go down, if we're honest, not really fighting. So, you know, it has a bit of a story.
Yeah, I'm sure we could talk about cricket for a long time, about the direction the England team seems to be going in. But
we could.
Should we stick to music and talk about your new records as well, which Go Down Fighting is off? It's called The Light at the Top of the Stairs, which is coming out on April the 10th. What can we expect to hear on the record?
Well, it's a very, it's probably our most emotionally powerful record, most ruminative and honest and in a sense truthful to where we are now. It's the most coherent. We started making it not long really after our last record, which was called Overground, which was a pretty high bar for us. I mean, we were really, really proud of that record. It was incredibly well received. So, you know, it was a bit intimidating. So we started just recording songs as we wrote them, trying to keep that idea of making a record at bay, but it gradually evolved. And then by accident, we had the intention of going to this studio in near Newton Abbot called Middle Farm to just record a couple of songs. And we had a film crew and we were going to make, you know, that sort of behind the scenes, fly on the wall vibe. And we're going to do these two songs. We made an absolute schoolboy error of being persuaded by Pete Miles, who ran the studio and was very, very excited about his 2-inch tape machine, that we should record directly onto tape. And we didn't really think that through. So if you record directly onto tape, you can't change anything. It's a live recording. It's done. So these songs that we prepared, we were booked for 3 days. We had recorded by 11:30 on the first day, on Friday. It's like, oh my God. So we just kept going. And that was a record that forced its way out because it in 2.5 days we'd made an album, and unexpectedly called Lightning Strike. And basically we had to deal with it. We had to put it out, and which we did. So there was a sort of hiatus with the Light at the Top of the Stairs record, but that was a good thing because it allowed us to come back to it with perspective. And you know, you're a top music man. You know exactly what, you know, you write things, but you don't necessarily know what they mean until a bit later when you have a chance to stand back. And to some extent, people also can tell you a bit more about what they think it means. And we're a band with a very serious side and with a very humorous side. And the Lightning Strike record had taken up most of the humorous things that we were doing as well. So that they were on that record. So inevitably this was going to be more serious. And it was just a record about, we realized this was a record about being here in England, the age we are, the stage of life, the challenges of dealing with aging parents, you know, the general difficulties of life where one is in you know, where we are a little bit older. We're not a teenage pop band, so we are marinated in life. Anyway, that's a really, really long answer, but it's a serious record, I suppose.
And the sound that you've made with this record, was it the sound you wanted, or is it just kind of how it turned out as you were writing and recording it?
I think it is. We go and record at a studio in in West London called Eastcote with a long time collaborator called George Murphy, he started off actually as this is man and boy at Eastcote. He was the tape op effectively, or runner on the early Mumford's records and Laura Marling and so on. And he has evolved into a major league sonic wizard. And you can hardly think of what you want to do before you set it up and you're doing it. And it's a sort of bit of a magic carpet ride. So we've kind of evolved a process over about 4 or 5 records of knowing each other really well and co-producing. And I think it is the sound we wanted to make. Yeah.
No, that's good to hear. And I'd like to talk a little bit about the writing process as well. So for you, how do tracks normally start off?
No specific rhyme or reason, often from a mistake. Where you're playing the guitar, you're playing something else, you're trying to put your brain in neutral, and you play some chords and you go, it sounds a bit different, and that may have a mood to it, and that may spark a lyrical idea. Sometimes it comes from a line that you've seen somewhere or you've read in a book, and it pings you off in a direction. Sometimes a line comes, somebody says something to you, like there's a song on Overground called "Is There Room in That Bottle for Me?" And that started from that line. Somebody said that, and I was like, that's a country song for sure, right? So the story span out of that that idea, that title. And sometimes songs appear in 20 minutes. Song on the last record called Tomorrow Will Be Better appeared. There's also a thing of when you're under a lot of pressure and you've just got to go out and an idea comes to you in a germ, you work with real urgency. It sort of kind of something comes out. And we were just about to go on stage at the Bush Hall. And I basically had to write the song in 20 minutes, which is what happened. So I don't think there's a rhyme or reason, Jim. I think some of them, as I said, appear in 20 minutes. Some of them take 5 years, because you don't have that bit. You've basically got a good verse, got a good chorus. There's something missing. Gets to about 2/3 of the way through the song and becomes boring. How do you solve that? There's those kind of issues.
Yeah, and you've been together now for over 15 years. Do you ever now look back at anything you kind of wrote back then and think, I can use that now? Or
not well, we did. That's a really good question. I mean, some of the songs that you write, I think the word record is really interesting because it's a record of that moment in time. It's not a definitive, that song is like a tablet of stone handed down from a biblical mountain. It just means at that moment, that's what the song was. And because we're very much a live band, we play lots of shows, and the energy comes from evolving music, new music. These songs can go on quite a journey over the years. So actually on Lightning Strike, there were a few songs that we had evolved live over quite a period of time. So we do kind of reach back from time to time. And sometimes somebody will mention a song that we haven't played for 10 years and you go, oh yeah, that was really good. Why did we stop playing that? Don't know. You've just got too many songs to play. And that comes back and probably gets a bit of a refit. A little bit of a retool, Our lineup's changed a bit from the very beginning in that we started off with a lead guitar player, and we now have an accordion / keyboard player, which is one of the great signifiers of joy. I think when you go and see a band, see an accordion, you go, it's going to be all right. So sonically, it's a bit different, but yeah, we have evolved.
Yeah, no, I believe that's true as well. And we were talking about live stuff and live shows, and you've got a couple of weeks before you end up being back on the road again. I bet you can't wait to be doing some more shows.
Yeah, it is exciting because well, Emily, who is our trumpet player, is having her third baby. She has designed that. She's the author of the maternity policy at Police Dog Hogan and taking full advantage. So no, she is in a few weeks having her third child. So this time we don't have Emily with us on the tour, but we do have one of our long-time collaborators with us, who's an amazing guitar player and singer and writer called Murray McLaren. I wrote Devon Brigade with him, and several songs. The actual song "Lightning Strike" was written with Murray, and he's a great writer and a great guitar player and a great singer. So he is not playing the trumpet, but taking that seventh spot, and that's going to be really exciting because we're going to be able to your previous point, that allows us to refit and retool some of these songs from a very different dimension, and it's probably going to be a bit more, dare I say it, rock and roll, and a bit less folk. But then Emily hopefully will come back in the autumn, and
You'll be an 8-piece.
Oh my God, that's a thought. There was a moment when we were, and it's just a bit too much. 8. I mean, 7. Most people would regard 7 as a bit too much, but 8 for sure.
You can't fit on the stages.
No, that is really true. That is really true. You see, you go into a narrow venue, you go, how's that going to work? We're going to have to move to a 4-4-2 lineup, or 2-4-4 or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the dates you've got booked in takes us through until kind of middle of June. What's your plans for after that?
Well, we've got small plans rather than big plans. We're going back to Greece to do this festival called Cardamili Festival again. We've got some shows in the autumn. We're going to play at probably the Half Moon again 3 nights. Well, that's become a sort of tradition that we do these shows in the Half Moon, and I think Exeter and Bristol in the autumn. Not so much, and I'm going to do Devon Brigade in the Guards Chapel again. On Remembrance Sunday. We haven't really got too much in the way of festivals, but I think we're probably quite ready to start tentatively the recording process that takes us forward. So, we don't have many metrics for success, Jim, but our main metric for success is to persist. And I think that's what we should say we're doing.
It's worked for others, so it can work for you too.
I think it does. I think you just don't think too hard.
I think Frank Turner's the one that comes to mind, where I think he released like 10 records before he became started to make money from it.
He is the definition of persistence, and probably the hardest working man in folk. It has to be said.
Yeah, and it works well with your music, music too. And one question I've started to like asking people is show days. So for you, what does a show day look like from the moment you wake up until the show starts and ends?
Well, I always think there's more time than it turns out there is. So inevitably you end up sort of crushed against the inevitability of going on stage. Well, where we're out and about, I suppose we live the Travelodge life, like many musicians. We're helping to keep that august organisation in funds, and so yes, we probably have a fairly poor breakfast in some backwater outside of Burton-on-Trent or something like that, and then we would travel to where it is pretty much that we're going to be playing and have lunch. Normally have a kind of pub lunch. Then we like try and get to the venue early if we can. We think that we're going to have an opportunity to maybe do a bit of practicing and writing and maybe try a new song. But somehow, inevitably, there's so much faffing about that goes on that the time sort of gets crushed. And then normally around about 4, there's a sort of pretty much ready to sound check. Again, tend to think that we're going to spend more time sound checking than musically sound checking than one does, and normally it's not. It's fixing things. Something doesn't work. This leads buzzing. This is the time goes away, and then we'll have something to eat probably about 6 o'clock, and we'll probably be on stage about 7:30, and then we do it all again the next day.
Yeah. Is there anything that you have to do or have to not do just before you step on stage?
Well, we used to have Pete, the original guitar player. He had to have the last P before going on stage. So it was like like footballers that cross themselves and tap their toes before, OCD style. So if somebody else said, "Oh God," he would then that would delay us from going on stage because he would then have to go and rather ceremonially do whatever it is that he needed to do. In general, we're rather lacking in specific rituals. With occasionally an ironic huddle, maybe if we're playing a big show. You think, okay, I'm going to make this great. No, I think we don't have a lot of that actually. We just we've done quite. I mean, this band we must have done 400, not as many as Frank Turner, clearly, but we've done about 400 shows, I think. So, we stumble on.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Police Dog Hogan to talk about their new record out this week. Now, if you're loving all of today's interviews, then you can hear them again in an edited form on our international radio show called Future Hits. It brings you 2 hours of interviews, new music, and a live session too. And that is a radio show that comes alongside a pop-punk radio show called Pop Punk Party and a Christmas show too. And if you want to check out all our shows, then head to the website thesoundlabuk.co.uk and click on International Radio Shows. So while you go and check out all our radio shows, we've got our final new interview, and it comes from the band HELP. They've just formed and started to release new music, which we've talked to them all about. So Felix of HELP, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How's it going, man? Thank you for having me on.
Pleasure is all mine. So we've been playing a single of yours called Break. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
Break is a pretty slamming song. Comes out the gates pretty heavy. It felt pretty appropriate to bring out as the first release and take forward. It's almost like, a live show. You come out really strong, and it's a song that kind of hits you in the face a little bit. So yeah, we thought it was the right one to go with.
Yeah, good. And there must be, I'm sure, more music on the way. What is your plan for let's say this year and more music to come?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely always music ready to go. It's I'm a little bit particular on I want things to be kind of perfect, even though that's close to impossible. But there's definitely new music coming very, very soon. Next month actually will be a new single drop. And then I'm looking to have an album finished sooner or later. I won't give an exact date, but it's coming.
Yeah, good. And the sound that you've made with the music you've written and the band itself, is it the plan that you wanted for the sound, or is it kind of how it's just turning out as you're writing and recording it?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I only had the thought of the band, to even make a band maybe like a year ago. And as soon as I came across the name Help, which was actually my first idea, I was like, okay, I know exactly how this is supposed to sound. And I wanted it to be, to reflect the music that I grew up listening to, which was sort of like, that early 2000s kind of stuff, but also realized that, things have to be semi-polished and modernized and stuff. So it's almost like it has that throwback kind of feel, but it doesn't feel old. It's not just, another mass-produced rock song.
Yeah, for sure. And looking to the future and the direction that the band's going to hopefully go in, do you know where you want the sound to kind of go, or is there still plenty of things you want to try to see if work?
I mean, there's no telling really. I mean, it's like music. So next year I might decide that, I want it to be deathcore reggae. That's probably not going to happen. But I mean, I feel very strongly about like the image of the band, and it's almost like it has that punky angst, I guess. So that's definitely what I'm aiming for. But who knows? As long as it slams live, that's all I care about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you've been around in music and releasing music for a while, performing under your own name previously as well. At what point did you think I'm going to put this band together, and what made you write this sort of music as well?
I mean, I always, wanted to do the solo thing because I felt like there was an empty space for that. There wasn't really like a Bon Jovi type person for, I mean, years. It's been so long. And I thought that would be kind of cool. But then at the same time, the music I'm writing is very band music. Um, so I was actually auditioning with the band out in LA in April 2025, so last year. Um, and I actually came up with the band because it was to get around a sort of label idea, and it ended up just me owning the band and doing what I want with it. So it kind of ended up well, and I think this music really needed a band around it. It's not just me on stage.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the band consists of Aidan, Marcel, and Amy. How did you all get together to put this band together?
Well, it was my responsibility to get everyone together. I actually signed us to a management company before when it was just me. So I had to go out and find them. And Amy, she's actually the drummer for an awesome band called Tropic Gold, really good band, and she, kills it. And Aidan and Marcel, they actually go to a music uni here. So that helps a lot with the live shows because they study audio engineering and live technician and whatever. So it fell into place really nicely, and they're all just incredible musicians. So I got lucky.
Yeah, no, for sure. And people will want to start seeing you doing some live shows. What's your plan for that?
Those are coming. They are coming right now. I mean, because the band is in such a, like a baby phase. That's what we're figuring out at the moment. But I wouldn't be surprised from next month if there's going to be a lot of shows coming up. Hopefully some festivals. You never know. We'll see. So that's all we want to do. That's the dream, right? Just to get on stage and play the songs, and we're ready. So it is coming.
Good, can't wait. Hopefully, we get to meet up in person this year, especially at festivals. Now, I'd like to talk a bit about the writing side of things as well. So, tell us a little bit about how tracks normally start off for you.
Well, for the most part, I write everything. Usually, I actually finish a full instrumental, and I don't know why, because it might be that the lyrics don't work with it, but I tend to base the lyrical content off of how the instrumental feels. So if it's a little bit more uplifting, maybe it's not going to be the most, the darkest lyrics. And that's usually how it works. But, there's no rules, I guess. Sometimes you pick up an acoustic guitar and write a chorus, and there it is. And then sometimes you have to chip away at a song for about 3 months for it to come to life. So whatever works in the moment is usually what I go with.
And once you've got that instrumentation in place, how easy do you find it to add those lyrics in?
Oh, well, I'm just so particular, so I can, any musician can write a chorus, but if I write it and I don't feel like it's, topping the last one that I did, I'll just be like, okay, let's just put that aside and we need to write a new one because it has to progressively get better and better. So maybe that's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing. We'll see.
Yeah, no, for sure. And a question that I've just started to ask recently, which I can ask you, even though the band's fairly new, is tell us a bit about show day. So talk us through quite briefly, I guess, what your show day is like from when you get up until even after the show is finished as well.
We've not had one yet.
But what about you
the
as a
band.
person? Yeah, talk to us about you yourself when you've performed for yourself.
Yeah, well, so I grew up in the Middle East, mostly in Dubai, and any performances there, well, before I was 21, pretty much were non-existent. Well, on paper, because at the bars, at the clubs, you have to be over 21, and it just was a bit of a get in and get out kind of situation. So it's definitely, hopefully, that's going to be a bit different over here. A bit of a saturated market there. but kind of any opportunity I can get on stage, I'd like to, so that's what we're aiming towards right now.
Yeah, and is there anywhere in particular that you want to go and play at some point?
All of them. Give us anything. Give us any stage and we'll play it. I mean, of course, you have the big festivals and whatever, but you have to be realistic. But you can dream, right? So, if Mike M turn around and want to tour with us maybe in a few years or something, a little further down the line, then that would be a dream. So, fingers crossed, we'll see. If the music keeps up.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it's possible that as well. And you might have just answered it with this one, with that last question, but you must have aspirations of things you want to achieve as a band. What's one thing on that list that you really want to do?
I think, I mean, it's probably the same as everyone else, just play the biggest stages that you can, and the biggest audiences. I think there's something so rewarding about people relating to your art, and singing your lyrics. Like that means something. So, when you hear all these mass-produced songs with the same lyrics and the same riffs and whatever, it doesn't feel like much. And, I really want to create a special live show where people are like, okay, that was something. That's the dream.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with HELP. And now this is the part of the show where we like to throw back in time, and we're doing so back to 2020, where we had a little chat with the female artist known as Leann Rimes. Yes, she was busy releasing music at the time. We had a chat with her all about it. So Leann Rimes, how are you?
I am well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Thanks very much.
Good.
Let's have a little chat about the new release that you've got that came out just a couple of weeks ago, celebrating Coyote Ugly. Tell us what you've done with that.
We are celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Coyote Ugly film and the soundtrack, and so we decided to do a little mashup, a mega mix of all 4 of the songs that I recorded on the soundtrack into one big mix. Dave Audet, who is a fantastic producer and remixer, threw it together, and it's just a bundle of joy. It really is. It's super happy. I think people need this music right now, to remind them of a beautiful time in their lives and to bring some joy and move our bodies and dance, because it's definitely one to dance to for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And how did this compilation mega mix come about with between yourself and Dave Audet?
So Dave, Dave's a dear friend, and we've had a lot of success together with other tracks. So he was the first person that we went to when we thought about doing something like this, and I trust him deeply. He's someone who I kind of let do his thing and then give notes and go back and forth in that way and creating something. But he's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And how are you getting on with writing music at the moment for yourself? Because it's been a couple of years since you released a single or an album. So where are you at with that at the moment?
Yeah, I have. This was the Megamix is kind of the precursor to tons of new music. In fact, I've been writing and creating a chant record during this time, and that comes out on November 20th. And then I'm also finishing up a brand new record that'll be out sometime next year. So, I've got a lot of new stuff coming your way. And the chant album is something that's been kind of a passion project that kind of spun out of my own healing over the past several years. So I, utilize chanting for my own healing and my own spiritual, work. And I thought, I want to make this accessible to people. And because a lot of my chants that I work with are not in English. And so I thought, that's such an interesting idea. I've been writing choruses all my life, which are repetitive. So maybe I can take it and, with the very specific intention of creating chants with hooky melodies and, beautiful mantras to remind people of really innately who they are during this time. It would be pretty powerful. So that is what I have done. So that comes out on November 20th, called Human and the Holy. and which also spun into a podcast that I'm working on and creating during this time called The Holy Human. So there's so much new stuff coming out and coming your way for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Is that something you enjoy doing, just getting a lot done and cramming everything in that you possibly can, or is it just that's pattern at the moment?
It's just been the pattern at the moment, to be honest. Like, I've had all of these ideas at the beginning of this year. I had, wanted to do a podcast, and I had this idea for a chant record, and I needed to finish writing the new album, and we had this whole tour planned. And my question at the beginning of the year was, how am I going to create all of this during this year? And then, well, I shouldn't have asked that question, because I think, and then I got my answer like too quickly, and I had all of this time on my hands, and it's been. I've been keeping busy, even though I've totally enjoyed the rest and being at home and not having to be on tour. I've definitely kept busy with creating other things, and it's just kind of so happened that, it's kind of been one thing after the other kind of coming together to make this kind of the end of the year very busy.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of touring, you've got some dates already booked in for next year. I'm sure you're hoping that they're going to be going ahead and you can book more in at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking forward to getting back on the road. It's definitely something everyone is missing, and I hope that we get to keep those dates that we have for the next year and get to expand on that. And I know that we are looking to come to the UK in 2022, so I'm praying to God by then for sure we will be able to have concerts. I definitely hope so. Yeah,
absolutely. Now going back in time a little bit, so you started releasing music in the 1990s. How have you developed as an artist and a musician since then through until today?
Oh wow! I mean, I've definitely. I was 13 when I first came out with my first song, so much has changed and. I write a lot of my own music, and which obviously I didn't back in those days. So it's, creating music for me now is definitely gosh, I want to say it's a very spiritual experience, I think, for me now. Like, I feel like a conduit that I create from my own experience. I create from, what wants to come through, and it's very, very different for me, the creation process of things than it was when I was a kid. But I love doing it. I think I love it more, that part of it, the creating music and recording and writing and all of that. I think I love it more now than I did back then, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And you've also released a few holiday Christmas singles over the years. Is that something you enjoy doing, or is that something you want to do again?
Yeah, I love Christmas music. It's just something that's so joyful and beautiful, and I love bringing people good memories around that time of year. And I think my music has a lot of memories attached to it for a lot of people, especially my Christmas stuff. So. I've released, I can't even tell you how many, I think 3 or 4 records, Christmas records or EPs I've released. And I think I've run out of Christmas songs, but I think I'll have to write them from here on out, because I think I've covered everything I can cover. But I definitely don't count out the Christmas music within the next few years, because I'm sure there'll be something else coming along that way.
Yeah, we even have Christmas music on today in the house.
I love it. I'm actually putting up my tree.
Ourselves.
I'm putting up my tree today. I just told my husband, I'm like, as soon as I'm done with all my interviews today, we're putting up the tree. We were driving around LA last night for a bit, and there's people already have their lights up. There's a lot of people that do. So I don't feel bad this year. Usually I'm the only one that's like, I'm kind of one of those crazy people that right after Halloween, like I take down my Halloween decorations and Christmas goes up. So I don't feel bad this year. I feel like people are on the train with me.
I think it's the only thing to look forward to this year.
I have to say I agree with you. I think people are really, really in need of the holiday season this year for sure.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Leann Rimes from 2020. And that's the end of the show for another week, I am afraid. But don't worry, we will be back next week with another episode. But if you can't wait until then, social media at The Sound Lab, yes, on all the socials. And you can also check out the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk. And we'll be back next week for another episode of Interviews Unedited. Goodbye.